So the ending of Spider-Man No Way Home is rather confusing. I've seen a lot of people try to figure out what is going on, how does this relate to the other Spider-Man films, especially the fact that the villains, a good portion of them, actually turn out to be good guys in the end. How does this affect when they get sent back to their universe? Well, Loki actually explained this, so let's go over how they were restored and now how there is retcons. So by now, I assume you have seen Spider-Man No Way Home, and you know that during the film, Peter is working on a cure and trying to help all the villains. So when they get sent back to their universe, they can do the right thing and not end up dying as villains. We see that most of the villains here actually end up realizing that this is what they want to do. Main one being Doc Ock, who ultimately ends up being a really good guy. Well, we have to look back at the MCU, what they've said so far, to be able to figure out what exactly are they saying here. First and foremost, Loki. They reveal, and what we know, is that time is not linear. Time can fracture, go off and turn back upon itself, and affect the same timeline. This is once the sacred timeline was broken. Time was allowed to go everywhere. This was further explained and amplified in Avengers Endgame. So things can now free flow, which brings us to the Spider-Man villains. Essentially, when they get sent back at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, they now have a choice in that crucial moment of what happens to make the other choice, and they do. Effectively, the MCU has now retconned Spider-Man 3 for Doc Ock, and Sandman, and how the Lizard is handled, and how Electro was handled, because they created variants. Ones that splintered off the main timeline. So suddenly you have the moment where Electro is fighting the Amazing Spider-Man, and in one instance he ends up dying, and he ends up going to Spider-Man No Way Home. Then he's restored, and the other version makes the choice to go, Peter, I don't want to fight you, I'm sorry. Look, I realize what I've done is wrong, I made a mistake, help me out here. That creates another timeline. Now you have both of them. This happens with every single villain that helped, that was cured, that gets restored. And let me take you back to a crucial quote from Avengers Endgame. Professor Hulk, he says, and I quote, "If you travel back into your own past, that past becomes your future, and your former present becomes the past, which can't now be changed by your future." That's exactly everything I told you about now. So effectively, the Amazing Spider-Man and the original Raimi trilogy now have multiple variations of each one. The Spider-Man 3 that we got can't happen in the deviating timeline that happens with Doc Ock going out as a hero and asking for Pete's help. So this effectively connects it to Marvel's What If you will, where you get these little things that go in completely different directions, and suddenly, thanks to Loki and what happened with Kang, it's all possible. So now endless possibilities and how these Spider-Men can exist all ties back to everything that happens in Loki with Kang and how the timelines got fractured.